If you pick up pretty much any classic book on Islamic law or fiqh, you're going to notice something right away. The very first chapter, it's almost always Kitab al-Taharah, the book of purification. So in this explainer, we're going to dig into why this topic is the absolute starting block, the foundation for everything else. And this all clicks into place when you hear this powerful saying from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He said, "The key to paradise is salah, and the key to salah is purification." Wow, just think about that for a second. Prayer is our key to paradise, right? But you can't even use that key unless you have another key first, purity. It means that this huge central pillar of our faith is completely inaccessible until we get this first step right. But what do we really mean by purity? Well, in Islamic law, it's not just one simple thing. It's actually a concept with two distinct halves. And before we jump into all the rules about water and washing, it's super important to get this bigger, more complete picture. So you've got two sides of this coin. On one side, you have spiritual purity. That's all about cleaning the heart. We're talking about cleansing it from things like associating partners with God and from all other sins. And the scholars, they're really clear on this. This half is actually the most important. I mean, what's the point of having a clean body if the heart is spiritually dirty, right? Then on the other side, you have physical purity, and that's what we're really going to focus on. This is the practical stuff, getting rid of actual filth and lifting a state of ritual impurity from the body. Okay, let's get practical. When we talk about physical impurity, it's also split into two different categories. And you really have to know the difference, because how you deal with each one is completely different. First up, we have something called hadath, or ritual impurity. Now, this isn't something you can see, like a spot of mud. It's more of an unseen state, a condition you're in, that stops you from being able to pray. And the only way to remove it is by performing ablution, either the smaller one, wudu, or the larger one, ghusl. The second type is khabath. This is the stuff you can see. It's actual physical filth, a stain, a spill, that you have to physically wash off your body, your clothes, or the spot where you're going to pray. And we can go even deeper. That physical filth, or khabath, is divided by how severe it is. So on one side, you have severe filth, najasa mughalaza. Think things like spilled blood, wine, or dog waste. The rule here is that if a spot of this stuff, bigger than a dirham coin, is on your clothes, your prayer won't be valid until it's washed. Then you've got mild filth, or a najasa mukhakhafa. This is something like horse or sheep urine. For this, the ruling is a bit more relaxed. It's generally overlooked unless it covers a pretty big area, and scholars usually define that as about a quarter of your garment or limb. All right, so how do we actually clean all this stuff? Well, the number one tool for purification is, of course, water. But as you're about to see it from a legal standpoint, not all water is the same. The jurists have gone into incredible detail, categorizing water based on its state and, crucially, its ability to purify. The gold standard, the best of the best, is what's called absolute water, or ma mutlaq. This is just water in its pure, natural state. We're talking about rainwater, seawater, river water, you name it. Its purity is just part of its nature. It's pure in itself, and it can be used to make other things pure, no questions asked. Now, for something a bit more interesting, let's say a domestic animal, like your cat, drinks from a bowl of water. What's the ruling on that water? Well, legally, it's still pure. You can still use it for wudu, but its use becomes makruh, which means disliked or detestable, if you have other, better water available. It's a really subtle ruling that just pushes you to always seek out the purest option if you can. This next one really shows you how careful and precautionary the fiqh can be. What if the only water you can find is what's left over after a donkey or a mule drank from it? In this case, its ability to purify is considered doubtful. So what do? The solution is to use that water to make wudu, and then, just to be absolutely sure, you follow it up with tayammum, or dry ablution. That way, you've covered all your bases. This is a really fascinating idea, used up water. This is water that you've already used for wudu or ghusl. Now, it's really important to get this. The water itself is still considered pure. It's not dirty. If it splashes on you, your clothes are fine. But it has lost its power to purify. It's like its spiritual cleansing property has been spent, so you can't just collect it and use it for another ablution. So what happens when actual filth falls into stagnant water? The ruling here is all about the amount of water. It's basically about the power of dilution. If it's a small body of water, like a little puddle, it becomes impure instantly. But if it's a large body of water, and the classic definition is that it's so big a ripple on one end doesn't reach the other, It only becomes impure if the filth actually changes one of its three main qualities: its taste, its color, or its smell. To see how all these ideas come together in a real-world situation, let's look at a classic example from the fiqh books that was super relevant back in the day and still teaches us a lot today: how to purify a well. The rulings for this are incredibly specific and actually very logical. If a small creature like a rat or a sparrow dies in a well, you just have to remove 20 buckets of water. For a medium-sized animal like a cat or a hen, that number goes up to 40. If a large animal like a goat or even a human being dies in the well, you've got to take out 200 buckets or just drain it if you can. And because the pig is seen as inherently filthy, if one falls in, the entire well has to be drained. It's a system that scales up based on the size and the nature of the impurity. This deep focus on purity goes way beyond just getting ready for prayer. Islam gives us super detailed guidance on the etiquettes of using the bathroom, which basically turns a private, mundane act into something mindful, dignified, and clean. There are some very clear prohibitions here, and they're all about respect and consideration for others. The biggest one is that you should never face towards the Kaaba or turn your back directly to it. This shows reverence for that sacred direction, even when you're in private. It's also forbidden to relieve yourself on public paths, in shady spots where people like to rest, or under trees that have fruit on them. It's just about keeping public spaces clean and usable for everyone. And then there are these beautiful recommended actions that just elevate the whole thing. You're encouraged to enter the washroom with your left foot and leave with your right while reciting specific prayers before and after. The actual cleansing should be done with the left hand, which leaves your right hand for purer things, like eating. And while wiping is allowed, washing with water is always seen as the better, more thorough way to clean oneself. So after going through all these detailed rulings, from the different states of water to the etiquettes of the bathroom, it kind of leaves us with one big question. This is clearly about more than just getting ready for prayer. So how does this constant, detailed mindfulness about both spiritual and physical purity end up shaping a person's entire character, their hygiene, and their respect for themselves, for others, and for God in every part of their daily life?